Broadcasting from the Blanchistan Centre, this is Phoenix FM.
This is 92.5 Phoenix FM, community radio for Dublin 15.
Hey everybody, it's JB Jeremy Borash, and you are listening to Darrow O'Connor on the...
All right, guys, and we are live here on Phoenix 92.5M, the WrestlingRewind.com, NerdToKnowMedia.com, YouTube, Twitter, all that good stuff, and Twitch if you're in the chat. Thank you for joining us. Leave us a message on the screen and we'll be able to get to it because we have a lot to talk about this week. Last week, obviously, we didn't get a chance to do a show, so sorry about that. But Dave, welcome back.
It's a great day for wrestling, everybody. I don't even know where to start, Dara. There is so much going on. You know, in a time when the world, you could say, is quite literally falling apart, I still find a way to be sports entertained. Not just by the past and the rewind, by things happening in the present, that are referencing the past. My mind's all over the place. I'm just with you tonight. You lead and I shall follow. My Irish friend.
That's some intro, I tell you. It's great. Yeah, I tell you, I know you listen to a lot of THC, and I can tell because that's like a Greg Carwell word introduction right there. And not just because we share a YouTube channel, so
I mean,
yeah, I know.
Did you say THC?
Yeah, the Higher Side Chat. Did you put that?
Yeah, no, I did go through a lot of them recently. There's some good stuff on there. Shout out to those guys. They do a good job.
They do. Greg Carwell shows are fantastic. But anyway,
I must say, welcome back to the only show hosted by people that don't hate wrestling. And trust me, this is a week where we do not hate wrestling.
There's nothing to hate. That's the thing. There's
all
nothing
three
to
are
hate.
Great.
Yeah.
There was something from all three promotions this week that made me happy. And I when does that happen last, Dara? It's
been a while.
Been a long time.
I will say we're going to kind of put Survivor Series 1998 on ice for this week, or we might jump in. I don't know if you have time or not. We might jump in and do it over the weekend because it is a great show to watch. But so much happened that, like, in current time, WWE, AEW and Impact, that I don't think we'll get to it. So, and particularly since we didn't do a show last week, which had like the biggest talking point of the year, probably. So
yes, it did. We didn't get to do Dave Doesn't Follow the News, which would have been maybe the best segment in history.
Yeah, it would have been.
Because unfortunately, since then I have seen that news. Yeah, I guess we should talk. I guess we should.
So of course we're talking about the biggest story of the year. You know, we're talking about a phenomenal debut.
Phenomenal debut. Of not AJ Styles, but
not
AJ Lee, but CJ Swoggle.
yeah. I have to say he does actually look like AJ Styles. Like
there's a certain element.
Yeah, he does. He does pull it off really well. And I was just like, oh my god, Dave needs to see this. And then I was hoping nobody would like tell you about it because it's such an unbelievable thing. But yeah, he comes out and it's just like, oh wow, this is what Impact would be if Dave was booking it. They couldn't get him.
I would have definitely done that. I absolutely would.
Oh, I know
you know that Machine Gun Anderson, no doubt, texted AJ beforehand and was like, "Dude, tune into Impact.
You gotta watch this.
You gotta watch this." Because I don't think AJ minds. He probably thinks it's hilarious.
I don't know, man. I can see AJ going back.
Well, here's what I'll say. I forgot how much I missed Born to Fly. That is a great theme.
Oh, I don't like it with the rap. I like the early version of it. You know, the one from 2007. That's awesome. That's my favorite AJ theme. But yeah, like on the Impact social media, they were playing lots of old AJ stuff. So I'm like,
AJ's not happy about something right now. And that's just me. I'm just saying that.
I wouldn't be either. They sack all my mates and then, they don't give me anything to do. I can see him going back, man, and particularly if they're doing this AEW thing. That's hard to really turn down. It's like, hey, okay. Because they're probably going to be able to fork up some dollars to get him back. He's kind of done everything in WWE right now. So
I mean, what does he have? I mean, that's kind of the thing, right? So 2016, AJ Styles made his debut, and my passion for wrestling returned in a way I never thought that it would. He was featured on pay-per-views. Matter of fact, it's funny, I was looking through the Survivor Series posters, and there's 2 years in a row where one side is Lesnar and one side is AJ Styles' face, and they're right against each other. Like, this is a guy that was pushed to the moon. He had feuds with literally everybody that he could have feuds with, came out on top in the ones that ultimately would matter. He held the championship multiple times, long lengths of time. He had a great stable. He got to play a great face. He got to play a great heel. He made a ton of money on merchandise. I know because, well, I bought a lot of that merchandise. So, at this point, he can do whatever he wants. AJ is the guy who can just go wherever people are going to love him. He's not who he was when he was 20 or 30.
In other words, he's ready to fly.
I would say he's ready to fly. He might never do a spiral tap again. I had a hard come to Jesus moment this week where I realized that's probably out the door. But you know what? I watched his match from Survivor Series, and he did some stuff in there I haven't seen him do in a while. He did one of the kip up hurricanranas, which never gets the right amount of fanfare that it should, because think about how ridiculous that is to be literally on your back and you, without even using your hands, kip up and grab somebody by the neck and do a hurricanrana. It's insanity.
It's
the
phenomenal.
guy still got it. It's phenomenal.
Yeah. And I don't know, man. I've been thinking a lot about what WWE can do with their current product. Like, I'm watching it with interest. War Games is obviously this weekend, which
Yes.
it's always a good show, but we'll see if we have time again. I don't know if we will or not, but War Games is always fun, and that kind of seems to be where a lot of their panaz is going. The NXT show is what it is. It's never one that you feel disappointed or let down after watching. I can't say that so much about the current product with WWE, because there's very little of substance there. We talked about Survivor Series and nothing happened except for Undertaker's big thing. And if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't say it was worth watching. But with AEW, particularly now with Impact kind of working together, there is lots of reason. Who
saw that except for maybe us? Who saw
exactly?
Those
Who
things
saw that? But maybe us. Yeah, exactly. That's it. I believe we did actually say something very similar. But it's one of those things where, in an age where WWE is consolidating its power to an extent where it's like we have nowhere to go, AEW, I think, realized, right, and I think they said this. I think Meltzer said this. We are already aware that a lot of the guys are. Oh, no, actually, Meltzer said it, but we said it too. You said it. A lot of these guys who are working in Impact are probably going to go work in AEW after a while. Because it's number 2. So it makes sense for them to work together.
The only thing that's going to surprise me in all of this is I've already heard, because you go on to Reddit or any of the big forums right now. I mean, conspiracy theories are flying through the roof of like, oh, who's going to wrestle against who? What dream matches are we going to get to see? And I think what intrigues me the most right now is how do Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows play into this? Because as you and I know, they are, let's say, allegedly blacklisted from AEW because of a certain dispute that happened around their signing. So will this lead to a true Bullet Club reunion? Are we going to brush that away and they're going to get the money they deserve? They are the champs.
It doesn't have to. They can just show up.
I'd like to see it happen. I'd like to see them capture the AEW gold and be the only team to have TNA, AEW, WWE, and NJPW.
Well, here's the thing, right? We've seen invasions go south. Obviously, anyone who's been following the show from the get-go, some of the earliest shows of this where it was literally the 8-hour podcast with myself and Gary from a couple of years ago broke down the entire invasion, you know. But now this is a chance to kind of do that again, but in a new way without worrying about having a crazy old man booking it. We just have to worry about the mark who might be booking it. Because, you know, if they can't control their house, I'm concerned about certain things.
Let's talk about something that I know is near and dear to your heart, and we've actually talked about many, many times. And I guess the kibosh has kind of been putting on by a certain debut that happened this week. But I hate using them as a source, but I'll admit when they do have things that seem factual. According to the Wrestling Observer newsletter, Sting also had been interested in doing a cinematic match with The Undertaker.
Yeah.
So that is on the record, real, not just you and I playing jabs at each other each week talking about.
It's what makes sense. It made perfect sense. As I said, the way to keep that going in a very real way was the cinematic stuff.
Yeah.
But I think with The Undertaker being done, like done,
He is done. By the way.
done. Yeah, I think there's no way. Like, it's what really kind of did it for me was the media stuff. You know, where he started showing up.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just talking as Mark Calloway. I'm
What
like,
was your? I have my recommendation. What is if you dare are going to recommend one non-WWE media appearance that Mark Calloway has made during this done period, what would you recommend people check out?
Oh, that's kind of unfair because the Stone Cold Steve Austin one is fantastic, right?
But non-WWE.
I know.
Outside of wrestling.
I know. That's why I'm saying it's unfair because I do think that's the best one. But what was it? The chicken wings one? No, yes. Man eats the wings.
Yes. Yeah, I'm a huge fan of hot ones. I have been for years. I actually own some of the hot sauces myself that they use on the show. That was a really cool interview. It
was, but when the fact you see stuff like that and he popped up in loads of different places, I'm like, right, this never happened before. And then when I saw the Brothers of Destruction thing, which was really weird,
and you got it. That's, hats off.
And the Stone Cold Steve Austin one, I'm like, right, man, there's no way this isn't done, right? Because you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. Right, it's like,
right, and he did 2 Stone Cold Broken Skull sessions, right?
The second one I'd say was a bit more open than the first one, but when you expose yourself that much, you're like, right, well, there really is nothing out. Like the last ride left it open, but when you watch it again, you're like, all right, it didn't leave it open that much.
You know what's cool to me in all of this is my little brother actually came up to me the other day. I call him little. The kid's 6'4", like 240 pounds. He's a monster, defensive end in football. But he came up to me and was like,
"That's American football for."
Yes, that is American football. Yes, it absolutely is. And just him coming up to me and saying, "I've been reading all this stuff about Undertaker and." He keeps saying that like the best wrestler of this generation is AJ Styles. How cool is that? I know you like that guy. I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll take it. I'll take it.
Well, it's true, you know, and it's just one of those things where you're like, right, well, what else is there left to do for the Undertaker? And I know if Vince called him back for one more match, he would do it, and that was made very clear. But I don't see it happening. Like, and I think Sting probably saw the same thing and was like, well, look. There's no point in me just sitting here because I want to, like it.
He makes some money. He's got a family. Makes some money. He doesn't really have to do hard work. I mean, no offense. I mean, it is hard, but I mean, you know.
Well, look, there's 2 ways of looking at this. There's the Legends deal which WWE offer, which I'm sure is unbelievable, right? But he doesn't really want. Like, I got the impression from Sting that he didn't particularly want his career to end the way it ended. Because I don't think he thinks it's over, and I know that's
right. Well, and the whole Buckle Bomb, the whole Seth Rollins thing left a bad taste in everybody's mouth.
Absolutely. So I think if WWE, to be fair, look, and I'm not just saying this because it's me, but I think WWE missed the opportunity here.
He is. That's exactly why he's saying it.
No, but they obviously did. The way they used Sting was a massive. I don't know why they ever had that match with Seth Rollins to begin with. Not blaming Seth, but it was such a weird thing to do. It was like, why didn't you just give the Undertaker match? Would have made way more sense. But anyway, what I'm saying, what they had left, they did have one more chance to do it. So we're going to do it. They probably would have said, "Look, we're going to do it next year at WrestleMania," but they're not. So it was never going to happen.
What made it real for me? And I just yesterday actually watched Survivor Series, and in particular, the full Taker thing.
I just before you get into that, because that's
okay.
That is a conversation in itself. But with the Sting thing, why Sting made, because there is multi aspects to this thing, right? Where it's like it's Taker leaving, it's Sting leaving, right? And what I mean is the major aspect in this is where it's like, right, we got these two big figures where they're in the right place at the wrong time. And the right time is never going to come.
Who do you think did better with Sting's debut? WWE or AEW? Now, I know it's hard because of the
AEW,
crowd thing.
AEW, absolutely. Look, as much as I don't like it, personally, because I don't see the value in it, honestly, like for anyone other than Sting. And look, if he's happy, that's the main thing. But I don't see the value in it to AEW. I don't see the value in it. But it is probably a fantastic debut. It's their best debut of anyone so far.
There's a great video I'm sure anybody can find online. If you want to go on Reddit, it's on Squared Circle right now, where they actually play side by side Sting's WWE debut and Sting's AEW debut. And like it's no question. But what cracked me up about it is I was talking to my friend who texted me right after Dynamite aired and was like losing his mind over a bunch of things that happened on this episode, obviously. And one of the things that we were talking about is, like I've talked on this show openly about, is Cody Rhodes. He's just not my favorite because I feel like every match with him somehow has to harken back to the past and its storyline. And I really liked it at first. I thought it was amazing, but now it's predictable and tiring. And my friend's response was, yeah, but Cody doesn't do stuff like that anymore. And I immediately texted back, you just told me that Sting interrupted his match. What are you talking about?
See, that's it, and it's, I've seen the Sting thing many times. I'm a Sting fan, right? I've seen this happen in TNA many times. I've seen it happen for about 12 years. Happened in WWE, and it's like, right, look, that's a cynical way to look at it, I think, in one sense. In one sense, it's actually exactly what's happening. But what I think it is that the Phenom, the conscience of wrestling is gone. So Sting is now the conscience of wrestling. And
I don't think you're wrong. Because
that's kind of what I see. That's the only reason why I think he did it. Because it's like, well, look, I can't have the match with the Undertaker. There is no other Undertaker. But wrestling still needs a conscience.
If there was to be another, what they call them, Boneyard Skull Crew? Is that what they're called?
Yeah, Bone Skull Crew.
Something like that. They mentioned it on Raw this week.
Yeah.
Or if there was to be another wrestler's court in WWE or in a different company, and if it wasn't Undertaker, I think Sting would be next in line.
Yeah, like that's it.
Right?
I think because even, in and outside the ring, they're so similar, which I think is why a lot of people wanted them to face off because of that.
They are they're very devoted human beings, not just in terms of their allegiance in wrestling, not just in terms of their personal relationships, but to be perfectly frank, in the way that they express their religion as well is a real tenement for both of these human beings. Absolutely. And I think that's what has made them kind of whether you agree with them or not, I don't really care right now. That's not the point of what I'm saying. The point is that they have a certain moral authority and principle that other people looked up to. Absolutely. Like if Taker respected you, then you were good. You were cool.
And that was it, and it's the fact that Taker, the man, like the character and the man are done. Mark Calloway is who he is now, which is fair. He's earned it, but
Yes.
I think Sting, the wrestler, isn't done, and Sting the character isn't done. Steve Borden doesn't want to be Steve Borden yet,
No.
and it's like, you know what, that's fair because everyone can need. And I think there is room, because I was thinking the other day, I was like, there is no Undertaker wrestling is done as far as that. I think that was one. We will get to that in a moment, but what I mean is, like, there is room finally for that kind of step in, because who else is going to be? There's no one else, and then once Sting goes, well, we'll be in a different situation, and I'd imagine. But
No, I mean, you're genuinely left with, as much as I hate to say it, Triple H.
yeah, but Triple H
And he doesn't have that mystique, and he's broken the fourth wall so much, and the whole DX stuff really.
Yeah, but Triple H hasn't been Triple H the character in 10 years.
Right, very true. And I think that's what I was just like trying to get. I mean, you have Kane, but on the other hand, Kane's a mayor. Yeah, it's
like, and I'm not even saying guys on the edge there. I mean, like, these figures who transcend like Austin can still do it.
Austin can still do it. If not for some rather unfortunate
I know what you're
things
gonna
that
say.
were said,
I know what you're gonna say.
Hogan could have done it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
if Hogan
if
Hogan wasn't such a piece of,
if Hogan didn't allow himself to be recorded when he visited his son in jail, we'd have a much different picture of the wrestling world.
Oh no, we're not touching this one. But who else?
I mean, you've got Bret Hart, but Bret Hart's had so many sour grapes.
Bret Hart's 4 out of 10.
Shawn Michaels, because of the drugs, will never be on that level.
He'll never be on that level. See, it's a very small list, and it gets smaller.
Oh my God, and I feel so... When I meet you guys again, please understand that this is all part of commentary. Don't kick me in the face with a super kick, Shawn Michaels. I don't mean it that way.
No, don't. It's not that. It's for me. It's more kind of a case of who embodies wrestling. What character transcends the ring? There's very few, and again, I think it's the Mount. It's often boiled down of the Mount Rushmore of wrestling. What's that question mean, and why is it such a big one?
Andre the Giant, unquestionable, but he's not.
No, what I mean is, think of this as an ever moving Mount Rushmore, right? Whereas, like, as we're left, who is that for the current guys now who can still come out and get those pops?
Because Cena's gone.
See, Cena is the last one who could probably do it. But
I don't think
not there.
I think because we took Cena for granted for so much of his last 5 or so years there.
Cena came along at the worst time.
He did, and it's unfortunate.
And I was guilty of it. I hated John Cena in his main run, because I'm like, there is nobody else. We need other people, and now we're at the point where there's nobody in there. Like,
I've said this to you before, and I know that because of your early or late '90s love, rather, you don't see it, but this is exactly how we felt during 2001 to 2003 with Triple H. We just couldn't stand him anymore. He may have been the best. He may have been at the top of, quote unquote, the game or whatever, but it was so predictable he was going to win that nobody cared. And McMahon has always had this philosophy
of having the
certain guys like Hogan, like Cena, like Reigns, where you don't lose because you're going to be the top guy. And if you lose, it means something.
Yeah.
And I don't think Roman Reigns transcends wrestling yet.
No,
he's making good strides right now, though. I will say.
Look, I really like
his
Roman
character works.
Well, I've always liked Roman Reigns. I've never had any bad things. I think it's just because I've met the guy and he's such a nice guy. I'm like, it's really hard not to like you. Like I met.
Seth doesn't transcend.
Dude, I met the three of them in Dublin in 2012, 2013, right? Literally the nicest guys ever. And it's like, okay, it's just. I can never not like you guys, right? So there was that. But, Seth, it doesn't transcend, right? He's amazing, but it's not there,
I
Dean
could
Ambrose.
maybe. I was going to say Ambrose and Moxley. Maybe I could actually see
It's
Braun Strowman becoming that guy eventually.
It's not it's not something they can even do because they're all immensely talented and they're just incredible. But it's just the way this presentation is. I don't even know what it is. It could be nostalgia, it could be hype, it could be history. I don't know. But there's no one from the current generation who had Jericho maybe. But Jericho...
Yeah, but Jericho's kind of tarnishing, and I mean this with all respect.
Yeah, I know where you're going. He's tarnishing his own legacy every time he walks out in AEW current. And it's like... But then again, the same thing would happen in WWE. It's really difficult. You know, I think Taker managed to have that longevity because he worked like 2 days a week, 2 days a year. And
and that's the thing. 30. I think there's a line in...
it's in the last ride.
I don't know if it's in the last ride. It might be actually just have been in the farewell, which I know we're not getting into, but there's a line about being able to ride the edge of the lightning bolt for 30 years.
It is in the farewell. Yeah.
And it's so true.
Yeah.
I mean, who can do that? I mean, there's some women, like when I talk wrestling now with family or people bring things up to me, you have the people you expect. You always hear about Ric Flair.
Here's a question. Do you think Rock? No, I don't think so. I don't think so with The Rock either.
I don't. I think as weird as it sounds, I feel like people no longer associate The Rock with wrestling.
I think they played the hand too hard, too early, and they got all the juice out of him when it was still there.
If The Rock 2 years from now was the host of WrestleMania, that would be a lot more impactful than helping The Miz retain over John Cena a couple years ago.
Or have him come out to try to get Roman Reigns over when it happened.
When the Royal Rumble happens and The Rock gets booed because it's in Philly and we don't care. We hated Roman. Yeah, we were going to boo. Yeah. Sorry, Rock. It was cool to see you, but we still booed you.
Yeah, they played the hand too early. And again, it's that, you know, as stupid as it sounds, because, you know, we all know what wrestling is, but they played it too... It's like, the only way to say it is, like, the thing about The Undertaker is it's like, The Undertaker would show up, and it was The Undertaker. Right?
So who else? So your question is kind of, who else is there? And I think at the end of the day, you're left with Austin, right? Austin really is the only other guy, and I think it's because his on-stage or in-ring persona is so close to his, you know,
maybe
out-of-ring persona.
But it's not even that. It's like, because obviously, you know, Mark Calloway is not The Undertaker, right? He's not living in a coffin. He's not, you know, tombstoning people and all that stuff. He's not firing lightning. Actually, I don't know. That's the thing. It could.
That's the thing. I mean, there's a whole suite at Titan Towers. I don't know.
If it happened,
him and the cast of True Blood might just be chilling in there.
Yeah. If it happened, you're like, well, okay. With Austin as well, it's the same kind of thing where you're like, well, you are Stone Cold Steve. You are that guy, right?
Yeah.
So, and there's no one else who really kind of does that because they pulled the curtain so far back, or the character was so not them, where as soon as they got a chance to move away from it, they did, and now it's gone, which is, you know, the danger of playing either the too true life thing and you're not actually that way, or you know, kind of having this thing that you move around. And that happened with Triple H, where as soon as he dropped the uber heel persona, and, you know, you're like, oh, this is Triple H, he's like helping all these kids and he's super cool, and, you know,
so
whatever.
who is that current guy? Because it's not, by the way, this is totally random, but this is a sentence I'm not going to think of to say later.
Sure.
The amount of muscle mass that John Cena has lost since leaving the WWE is really starting to bother me.
Well, that's, you know, there's a reason for that.
Yeah, but Rock went the other way. Rock went, I'm going to super do more of such things.
But there's a reason for that too.
But why wouldn't Cena go that route?
Because he wants to chill out.
Yeah, but
he's not The Rock.
Yeah.
You know, there's a difference, you know?
I guess, well, you got me there. He's not The Rock. All right, that's fair.
Yeah, it's like The Rock wants to be this huge monster. It's like, all right, Cena's like, I want to be in comedies.
I think that's actually pretty fair. My display settings are off. I need to correct this. Stupid alien winner.
But yeah, the only other guy I can think that has that now is Sting, who still has that kind of oof. and that's why AEW wanted him, and he probably knew that as well. When
I think Flair still has it.
No, Flair doesn't have it.
No, you don't think so?
No, he doesn't.
Or do you think that he's such kind of a mess that he's kind of like a? No, I don't mean joke because that sounds terrible.
He had it in 2001, like really. And even his run in,
even like was it 05 where he had a match against Triple H for the title? And I was thinking about this earlier today, oddly enough, and I was convinced he was going to win and they were going to give him one more run.
He had a TLC match with Miz on Raw, which was amazing too.
Hey, what's up with Miz having the money in the bank?
Weird,
match?
yeah, I don't know.
I don't know what's going on.
But that's what I mean. Like it's such a weird thing, and having them so close together, where it's like, all right, Taker's gone, Sting is back, really underscores that specialness of those characters. So for AEW, I totally get why they're like, hey man, we're gonna do this. But from Sting's perspective, he's probably like, well look, I'm never going to get the one match I want from WWE. So there's no point me being here. I'm going to go off and be the conscience of wrestling elsewhere. And this allows him, and he probably said, look, because apparently the Bucks have been pitching this to Markey for about 2 years. And now he's like, all right, cool, here's money. I'm going to ask my dad for more money. And that's what happened, And yeah, so I just hope my fear on this is that they ruin Impact Wrestling. And I'm like, please don't do it, because on one hand, I'm really excited because I'm like, right, this is cool. This is great, but it's always a winner and loser on this.
It would be great to see guys like Chris Sabin finally get their due.
Yeah. And look, and don't get me wrong. Right? As much
Rich Swann, how happy are you that Rich Swann is the TNA champion when all this is occurring? Him versus Omega? I'm in.
Unbelievable.
I watched. You guys can find this. Okay, I'll wait. I have something to say, but I will let you interject. Yeah, okay.
Omega's gonna win.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, but
Omega's gonna win, and he's gonna beat him decisively.
Yeah, there's gonna be a one-winged angel that.
And that's what I'm worried about.
No Phoenix Splash can survive from.
The match will probably out of this world, probably match of the year. But
speaking of match of the year, now I'm going to interject where you're cutting me off. I saw an incredible match on YouTube last night. If you guys go on, that's right. I'm going to totally plug somebody that doesn't sponsor us in any way, shape, or form and never will. Shout out to High Spots Wrestling. They put up a free match between Teddy Hart and Rich Swann from, I believe, 2019. There might be 25 people in the crowd, and it is amazing.
Hey, there's more people there than at WrestleMania.
Well, that's very true. I mean, it's what you would expect. Teddy has to get on the mic for 5 minutes before the match and say how he's doing it all for his family and how he's, oh my gosh, what's Teddy's line now? He's like the best there. He's like the present, the past, and the future is how he's ripping off Brett's line.
He should say, I'm the best that can get out of bed in the morning.
That's true. But, I do love Teddy, and he's certainly been through some trying things in his life a couple years ago. So seeing him wrestle Swann, I was like, okay. And this was right before Swann put on those 25 pounds of muscle mass that we've been talking about. So I don't know, man. I'm interested, but you're right. I'm scared, like you, because Impact has this nice little thing going.
Yeah, they have this nice little thing where they're being left alone and they're pumping out quality content, and it's a lot of fun. So
if TNA had invaded Ring of Honor,
they did. That happened.
Okay, wait.
I've seen this before.
We lived this life. That's right.
Yeah, I've seen this before.
I've watched this movie.
That's what I'm saying. It's like the concern isn't coming from my distaste for AEW. It's coming from, this never goes well. Every time this has happened, it's gone bad, and it's usually a bigger company that ends up messing up the smaller company. So
I don't know. Apparently they're trying to bring in New Japan into this as well, so hopefully this doesn't get muddled.
Yeah, because that went so well with WCW and ECW going against.
I mean, I thought it was perfect, honestly. I mean, who would I rather have as a commissioner for WCW than Shane McMahon?
See, that's definitely
who, by the way, I know we're not talking about this pay-per-view until next week, but shout out to Shane McMahon for wearing black cargo pants as a referee during a match.
Oh, she needs to.
Just rock the 90s style. I want cargo pants to come back. Everything else from the 90s has come back. They left cargo pants behind, and I'd like to see them brought to the present.
Absolutely. Cargo pants are where it's at.
Yeah, especially if you're a juggler. They're great. I mean, anywhere I go, my balls are always with me, just a hand's reach away. And, it made life a lot more interesting.
Absolutely.
Cargo pants, keep your balls handy.
This is where if we had a Ridge Wallet sponsorship, it'd be handy because you can get your Ridge Wallet.
Yeah.
Or Raid Shadow Legends, whatever. So you pick your phone out, play the game. I don't know.
You can put a little QR code up.
Yeah, it'd be good to go. But so look, I don't know. I'm going to give it a fair chance before I hate it.
Tuesdays are the new Wednesdays.
Well, see, that's the thing, right? So not only is it on Tuesday, but Impact, I think, is the show that's actually going to be the one. I know we said that, but what I mean is it's not only going to be the show to watch from now on, it's going to be the show to actually pay attention to as far as where a lot of this is going to go down. And here's the thing. If you guys are in the UK, you can actually catch Impact on Free Sports TV every Wednesday night. So
yeah, and if you are in the US, I do believe it's on Access TV, but it's always available, correct me if I'm wrong, on their Twitch channel.
Yes, it is.
And that is the place to watch it. I had 3 people since Wednesday already text me and say, oh my God, this is amazing, but I have no idea where to watch Impact. I know you talk about it. Where do I watch it? Just go to their Twitch channel. Don't know how to find their Twitch channel. Thankfully, a couple years ago, a couple guys invented this thing called Google. Type in Impact Twitch channel. You're sure to come across
right
it.
up.
Yeah.
And not only there as well, they play all their older stuff as well sometimes. So
pretty sometimes cool. You get free pay-per-views. Turning Point, for instance, was streamed free. So
and if you want to spend some money, you can get the Impact app. So
yes,
which has everything. It's like WWE, but not painful to watch.
It's like WWE except all AJ Styles.
As if that's a bad thing.
I know, right?
So look, that's where we stand on that now. We are obviously going to pay. It's crazy that we turn our attention to Impact Wrestling and then it just becomes the battleground of the biggest story of the year.
This is so surreal for me because when we had broached this topic in planning meetings and I was like, I don't know, man. I don't know if Impact's for me. I gave up on it years ago. And it kind of sucked me back in pay-per-view by pay-per-view. And at the time where I was the most sucked in, I mean, that match that Swan and Callahan had. Swan and now it's escaping me. Was it Rajit or was it Callahan? Who did he wrestle at that tournament?
Callahan.
I was Callahan.
Yeah, it was Callahan, yeah.
I haven't lost it. That match that Swan and Callahan had was so good.
It's such a but even on the shows week to week, it's been such a solid show, and we haven't covered it week to week. We will find a way to make that happen because the guys in Impact actually help us out a fair bit.
They deserve it.
It's great, So I'm excited, to kind of see what is going on. But the way it's happened is really weird. Sting showing up is weird. It's like it feels like they definitely have something here. I just hope they actually know what they have. And it's not just going to be Cody Rhodes burying people. So, which could happen. Yeah. And it's just like, please don't let that happen. Look, if Jericho's there, he's been there before. He might be able to be like, hey, lads, let's not do this again. Let's just kind of figure this out properly. And the books seem to really be into this. Impact now are playing the old Generation Me stuff, like videos. So they seem
a lot of generation. I'm hearing a lot of hype of people saying we want to see Generation Me versus the Young Bucks. And,
Generation Me are the Young Bucks.
Yeah, well, I know. I'm aware. I didn't say everybody else is as intelligent as you and I.
Right.
But I said that I got text saying we want to see Generation Me versus the Young Bucks. And I was like,
oh, God. Okay.
But I was like, what? Where do you want to go with that?
Well, here's one thing, right? So about 10 years ago, the Bucks as Generation Me had some incredible matches with the Guns, right? 10 years later, I still want to see the Bucks versus the Guns because that's going to be unbelievable.
I want
when
to
that
see
happens.
them. Do we have an ETA on when Shelley is expected to return?
He's retired. He was wrestling this week.
Oh, fantastic! So what was the deal with the pile driver? Legit, just get him off camera for a little. What
No,
was
it was
a
an
little
injury.
stinger?
It was a
Oh, it's
stinger.
just a
Yeah,
stinger.
it
Okay.
was a stinger. But the mountain as well. They're talking about the mountain. Oh, sorry, not the mountain. The north.
What, I thought you were talking about the guy from Game of Thrones.
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
like, I know they went Game of Thrones with a little Sting intro on AEW, but are they really bringing the mountain in from
yeah,
Iceland?
I was like, what am I talking about? No,
You have a cameo on one silly HBO
And live
show,
off
and you
it
never,
forever.
yeah.
live off it forever. Actually,
No, tell me about that time you were in Middle Earth, by the way.
I was in Westeros, not Middle Earth. But
Oh, excuse me.
if you want to check
Wait, I
out,
thought you did both. Did you not?
No, I
You
didn't.
have
No.
any. You didn't have any Lord
I
of
was
the Rings
11
things?
when Lord of the Rings came out, so no.
We were 11.
I was 11, yeah. So no.
Why was I reading those books at such a young age?
Oh man, because that's what happened. Like, I was just talking to something like to go off topic. I was talking to my friend the other day about how that happened because she's about 5 years younger than me, and I was like, "Here, you guys like Harry Potter, but you don't understand. Lord of the Rings and the Matrix were like really important for us, and then Harry Potter just appeared as this weird other thing that we all just kind of missed out on as a result." But yeah. Anyway,
Yeah, I didn't
topic,
miss
so.
out on that because Harry grew up at our age, but actually for me, oh my gosh, I'm about to get super esoteric for like 1 second. I hope this makes sense to the one person who gets this. J.R.R. Tolkien was really close friends with C.S. Lewis.
Yes.
And in fact, they would go out for tea and they would share their writings with each other. They would critique
They had a
each
group.
other.
They had
Yeah,
a
there was a
group.
little group that they had. And Tolkien sometimes felt like C.S. Lewis went too Christian, and sometimes C.S. Lewis was impressed by the way that Tolkien would get Christianity into his messages. But one of the things growing up that I loved was my mom used to read to me, starting with The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, maybe when I was like 4 or 5, and read the series to me up through the Caspian series and all of that. And that was one of those things where I'm starting to put together like a registry and whatnot now, where I was like, I can't wait to do that with my kid, like get to the point where I can, I'm reading her a bedtime story and it's the Chronicles of Narnia when she's like 4 or 5. And like, there's cool things like that in life that wrestling certainly provides connection, like I've had with my little brother and whatnot.
Absolutely.
And literature can do that as well. So I figured I'd sneak that in there since we were talking about Lord of the Rings and whatnot. And hashtag Dave kind of made an announcement on the show. You're welcome.
Fair.
And so yeah.
Yeah, so there you go. Hopefully it isn't ruined by the new shows that are coming out. But look, it is what it is. It is what it is. We'll get to that. All right, so we're gonna have to put a pin in it and see where this goes because it's still far too early with the actual, with it had a very good strong week. I think the Impact is the show to watch this week. We'll probably keep an eye on it.
Would you make an argument that this was the most? I was going to say impactful. But I'm not
I thought you were going to make it.
I
honestly
was.
did.
Do you think that this was? I'll just say. Do you think this was the most impactful week? I know we're going to talk about some other things shortly. In wrestling, since
15 years.
lockdown.
In 15 years.
I won't go as far as say 15 years.
It's changed the dynamic of wrestling. This week has changed the dynamic of wrestling.
You're
Like,
right.
fundamentally.
There is a complete.
Fundamentally.
You're right. There is a complete paradigm shift.
And I mean, like,
we had end of the era, quote unquote, but now we'll talk about it. But we had end of the era.
yeah. And what I'd say is, I think WWE is never going anywhere, right? WWE is going to be here forever. But I think, and I said this a couple of years ago, but it just gets more and more true as we go on. I think WWE will be the television to the world's internet. What I mean that is WWE will always be there, no matter what happens. We've seen that. The plague happened. WWE kept going, right? They will always be there. But I don't think they'll be number one for very much longer. In the sense of, as soon as, like, if AEW, TNA, and New Japan are all linked together, they completely circumnavigate WWE and can do their own thing. Now, how long that's sustainable really depends on having good people run it. I do think the people who are running Impact are doing a phenomenal job. AEW, for the criticisms, they're doing a very good job. So it's just like, right, let's just see what happens. And New Japan, right?
Right.
So
and even let's be fair, because people are going to say, "Oh my gosh, now that they're teamed up with Impact, you guys are all of a sudden riding on AEW's."
No, I'm not.
It's not that. Our issue with AEW has never been necessarily the product. There's stuff that we loved. We've covered pay-per-views that we absolutely loved.
Absolutely.
There's stuff that we hate, and our fear.
Cody Rhodes.
Yeah.
Right.
No, our fear honestly is Cody Rhodes. No, we'll be serious.
Okay, fair. Yeah,
but our fear is that AEW is starting to go the route of WCW. And what we mean by that is not just presentation, not just breaking the fourth wall, not just taking shots at competitors. It's allowing talents to book the product. And that's what worries us.
Well, here's the thing, though, right? The books I get, right? Omega I get, Moxley I get, Jericho I get, right? Those guys really know what's going on, right? I don't think it's a Kevin Nash thing where they want to put themselves over. The stuff that the books do is crazy, and I'm like, listen, if you guys just want to collect a paycheck, you wouldn't be doing half the things you guys do.
Oh, no, the Bucks have since day one. If you've watched them on the Indies when they were coming up, I mean, the stuff that they were doing, it's insanity.
But what I mean is, if they wanted to bleed the thing dry, they wouldn't bother their arse, right? They just wouldn't. Omega's the same, and Jericho and stuff like that. They're all there for the right reasons. I do believe that, right?
Cody is there.
Cody's the exception. And honestly,
Cody is there to prove that WWE treated his family wrong, and I don't disagree necessarily with Cody.
That's not.
No, I know
not
what you're
right
about to say. I know what you're about to say. I agree that's not the right reasons, but I'm saying Cody almost seems like he's there to constantly prove that WWE treated his family wrong, dating back to making his dad wear polka dots in the ring. I get that. But at the same time, hey man, like, this is your company. Like, move forward. Show us progression.
Yeah,
at a certain point, sour grapes, they just don't make the most delicious wine. And AEW is something that I want to open up and sip and enjoy with a nice meal. It's not something that I want to have bitter in my gullet and it just gets me really like crazy in my head. And you're throwing all sorts of things at me. And you guys are welcome for that absurd mixology analysis. But I don't know how else to describe Cody Rhodes. That's what he does to me.
From the get-go, AEW has been a WCW replacement, facsimile, right? But the difference between AEW being a facsimile of WCW, which, to be fair, Impact kind of was as well at certain points, is that it really, 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 really feels like WCW. And I love WCW, right?
We do. It's funny because the matches the pay-per-views we've covered have not been their best.
No, they have not, but they will. We will get there. We will
get there.
And that's kind of the great thing about doing the shows. We actually get that scope to do it. But
people talk about revisionism in history, right? And you hear it in politics. You hear it in, you go back to the Middle Ages. You go back to any war. You always hear about for revisionism. Well, revisionism in WWE land is that WCW was awful. Why would anybody ever watch it? People tend to forget about the fact that WCW legitimately was the number one wrestling promotion on the planet for several years. And they did have a really good streak going there. And it needs to be appreciated for what it was. It's not just because WWE won the war. Sorry, this isn't history. The kings don't get to choose the monks that write the books that we read 2,000 years later, and we just assume that's what the history actually was, and we leave everything else buried as myth. No, we were there. We saw it. Well, so we need to give appreciation to what actually occurred.
Not only that, Dave, they charge €11 a month so you can watch it.
It's only $9.99 here in America.
Yeah, well, we have corrupt EU taxes, so...
I mean, you had me at EU and corrupt.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, it is what it is, right? Taxes are fun. Anyway,
Are we gonna get to it? Is it time?
we are going to get to it.
All
But
right.
what I would say is, right, look, let's just see. I'm willing to start slate clean here with AEW and be like, right, let's see what happens. If they kill Impact, one, I'll have to finally write that book on Impact, which I've been saying for years I do. And also, I'd be really upset because finally Impact has become what I always hoped it would be. So, you know, it is what it is. Right, to wrap up the show here, guys, we're going to talk about what was the biggest story in wrestling. Undertaker's final appearance. Well, I don't think it's final appearance. I think he'll be back as far as do something, but his farewell.
Okay. There's a lot that can be said about this, from the video package. There's a moment, I think, for every really dedicated wrestling fan where something hit them in a way that they weren't expecting to, in a silly honestly, a silly segment in terms of, hey, this was just some video packages, some pyro, some really cool Tesla coils playing Undertaker's theme. I love that.
That was
A
cool.
lot of guys coming to the ring when there's no audience. And
No, that wasn't weird. A lot of guys
leaving.
coming to the ring and then disappearing.
And then
straight away.
disappearing.
Here, do you think
I want to ask you
before you
a
do?
question. Okay, or I won't ask the question. I guess
No,
I'm
do.
banned.
No, you're not.
Okay.
Do you think Kane coming out in gear was a joke that everyone else played on him?
Was that Kane?
Oh.
I've never
Oh.
seen Kane with chest hair before.
Oh, interesting. Okay, right. Sorry, answer your question. There you go. I think Dave figured that out. I thought it was a joke beforehand. Anyway, go for it.
There
Sorry.
was something going on, and I'm being a bit facetious there, but okay. I know there's moments that got me, more than one. I'll whatever. I don't care. I'm a fan. I'll admit it. What was the first moment where you realized, oh, my floodgates are about to open? This is actually hitting my heart. And I didn't think it was. This is just a silly Survivor Series gimmick on a pay-per-view to maybe get a couple more eyes on. What was the moment that got you first? I know the moment that got us all in the end, but what got you first?
If the video package hadn't been played on the pre-show, the video package would have got me 100%.
Okay.
But the fact they played it on the pre-show, I was like, oh, I've already seen this. Damn, you've kind of ruined it. I don't know, man. There was a lot about the farewell that took me out of it. Like I was pulled in. There was a lot of technical problems with it, where I saw the little pedestal come up, and I'm like, "What are you doing?"
Wait, what are you referring to?
When Taker, remember, he came up, he was levitating. And then like it was levitating up, but then you kind of saw the platform and then it went down again.
Mm-hmm.
That took me out of it a bit. So my floodgates didn't open as such, because I had already
seen that. Okay. I
had done the big sin that you're not supposed to do with wrestling, where you are too aware, and that's the problem about being a smart marker and that. It takes so much away from it. It wasn't until I had turned my computer off and I was just watching it on that TV over there that it really started to hit me. Because that's how you're supposed to watch wrestling. You're not supposed to watch it with your computer open.
Right, and that's the weird thing about our jobs, right?
Yeah, you're supposed to watch it.
We'll call this a job because, at the end of the day, we produce a show, we put it out.
Absolutely.
And there's certain things that we have to watch. And at the same time, we're making notes about, okay, how are we going to talk about this? We're putting timestamps and things to grab screenshots. And it's really when you get lost in the moment that it gets you. So you're saying it would have been the video package.
Yeah.
But it wasn't because you had seen it beforehand. So what was the first thing that made you realize, oh wow, I'm 5 years old again and I'm sucked into this?
I think it was when I saw how old he was.
And
I'm like, well, you're a person. You're not
I saw that too.
You're
saw
not.
that too.
Oh, how do I say it? You're not immortal. That sounds so stupid.
I know, no, but you're right though.
Stupid,
It sounds stupid, but it's okay. It's okay to feel that way, man.
It's like you're not this superhero anymore. You're a person, right? And it was that's where I was kind of like, oh my god, like this is weird because you're the Undertaker. You know what I mean? And that was kind of the bit where I start getting a bit, misty-eyed as such, because you're like, wow, this is it. There's no way this is anything else. Like with the Boney Iron match, you're able to hide so much, which is why it was so good. But when you actually see him in high definition, and you're like, wow, okay, it is what it is. It's like watching Logan.
Okay.
Which is what they were kind of going for, I think, to be honest with you.
So I'm going to tell you what got me, and it caught me by surprise, actually. I think it can go without saying that there's not a single person who truly was an Undertaker fan for decades upon decades, that when he crouched down in the ring and they showed that hologram of Paul Bearer, that didn't, I'm not going to lie, I had tears coming down my face. My girlfriend, unfortunately, walked in the room while I was watching this in the middle of the day, and she was like, she just looked at me and she gave me a hug, and she's like, I was just like, damn it, wrestling making me cry. And she's like, you're so cute, and just gave me a kiss and walked away. And I was like, I found the right one. It's somebody who can understand that and just be on their way was cool. But I don't think anybody who watched it, that's not the moment where, I lost it. That was too much. But for me, the initial moment, see, up until this point, we weren't sure that Undertaker was really done, right? We were holding out. Even I, as much as I pestered you and bugged you and mocked you, I was holding out that he would have a match against Taker against Sting, rather, at WrestleMania. I honestly thought that was a possibility. AJ has talked about the fact that he would love to have an actual WrestleMania match in front of a crowd with Taker. So I always thought that there was maybe some sort of hope that this wasn't really the end for Taker. That Saudi Arabia, if they don't go to war with Iran, has enough money that they can throw at Taker to come over and perform. That maybe something will get him in the ring. And the one constant that anybody who watched, it might. But the one constant that anybody who watched The Last Ride in its entirety will tell you is that if Vince McMahon tells Mark Calloway, I need you to come on a show and I need you to perform, Mark Calloway will be there. And what got me and what really made it all feel real was when they came back to the ring after the video package. Everybody was gone, which granted was odd that they were gone, but Vince McMahon was standing in the ring. And Vince McMahon delivered not a Vince McMahon program, promo, not even a eulogy, but just the way that he acknowledged the past and the present, saying WWF, but more importantly, acknowledging the fact that this was going to be the final act of The Undertaker, wasn't just for me saying this is when, I'm not going to lie, the tears started flowing, because for me, it wasn't just the acknowledgement that, okay, maybe Taker actually is retiring, because as we've said repeatedly, if Vince McMahon calls Taker back, Undertaker will be in that ring. And what we watched was a man who I've been watching so much in the late 90s, being crazy and being in wrestling matches and being full of life, but who's now well into his 70s, and he himself is having struggles, standing in that ring and acknowledging that he's finally letting Mark Calloway, the person, be free from the character The Undertaker that he has kept him at for years, and saying, this is it. This is the end. That got me more than anything aside from Paul Bearer, man. That hit home like no other.
That's what I mean. And that's when, like, even though Taker came out as Taker, it wasn't.
No, having Vince
This
McMahon
weird
admit that
thing
he's
where you're
never
like,
going, having Vince McMahon admit that he's never going to call Taker again to wrestle a match after watching The Last Ride meant more than anything they possibly could have done. Because Vince has the final say in
but
when
also
Taker is done, and he said he was done. And man, Dare, I don't think I believed it up until then. I thought Survivor Series was a gimmick to set up a future Undertaker match. I really did. And then Vince.
Here's one for you. Right? Here's one for you. Just to wrap it up. Undertaker always existed outside of wrestling. As in, like, he never needed a belt. He never needed anything. He was the Undertaker. And finally, Undertaker was taken out of wrestling. And that, I think, was the hardest thing to really kind of do. From an emotional standpoint, it was like, wow, this force of nature no longer exists. And it's done. It's gone.
Dude, we're both 32 years of age. We don't remember a time in our lives where The Undertaker wasn't on television wrestling. We don't. We simply don't.
Hardest thing for me to deal with was that. Because it's just like my whole life. Obviously, I was born before The Undertaker myself.
Yeah, a couple years, but I mean, we not that
don't
we're
remember
cognizant. Yeah.
No, don't remember it. One of my very first moments of watching wrestling was The Undertaker. I remember Undertaker crucifying Stone Cold Steve Austin as a kid.
Yeah.
You know, I remember all this stuff, and it's great. You know, one thing we can say is that, like, we can watch his career. The great thing about this show is we can go. We're going back and watching some of his great matches, and yeah, it really is one of those things. But you know, we weren't joking. We said the paradigm of wrestling has changed drastically in the 2 weeks. You know, there's a quote, and I don't usually quote Karl Marx. I'm never going to again.
Oh, geez, this is how we're ending our show.
Well,
Lord. What happened? What happened to our great show?
It's either Karl Marx or no, it's Lenin. Sorry, of course. So I'm not going to quote Lenin in a good way either. But
was it that democracy is the first step towards socialism, or is that taking us off on a different tangent?
No, he said there are some years that feel like there's some weeks that feel like years, and some years that feel like weeks. And that's what this has felt like, where we have moved so drastically away to a new paradigm in wrestling. Not only because the Undertaker has retired, but what we talked about earlier on in the show. It's just like, wow, we're in this whole new space. You know, it's unbelievable. What a year 2020 has been, but I never thought we'd be having this conversation. That's for sure.
We started this show with the premise of we're going to need to cover the past because nothing's going to happen in 2020.
Yeah.
And we have spent at least half of our shows talking about what's actually happening in 2020. And I think that really is kudos to an entire industry that has thrived. You can call wrestling a soap opera. You can call wrestling theater. The difference is that unlike those two things, wrestling is actually thriving, and we are watching it. And it's keeping us, I'll say it, sports entertained. And at the end of the day, what more can I ask for?
Here's the thing, you know, and very few things have felt as real as the emotion people have felt watching The Undertaker finally leave.
I've been watching The Undertaker supposedly retire since April. I posted stuff to my Twitter, my Instagram back then, but
this was different. This was different. I didn't believe it.
Is there another wrestler who could announce tomorrow that they're done and they go out and they give them, you know, a nice farewell, great video packages, great legends come out to, you know, laud them in the ring and show their respect that would hit you the way the Taker did? I did not realize that Undertaker was my favorite wrestler of all time until this week.
Neither did I. And I think that's the hardest part. Nobody knew that. Nobody knew it. Everybody thought, you know, oh, this was it. No, it was The Undertaker all along.
He was the constant that we always took for granted. And like any lost love, it's not until it's actually taken away from you that you realize what you're missing.
Yeah. But look, guys, let us know. Obviously, we're not done talking about The Undertaker. By a long shot, it's the rewind. We're going to be talking about The Undertaker a lot, but you know, we're blessed in that sense because we are lucky that we get to kind of do that. And yeah, so obviously there's a lot more stuff to talk about in the weeks ahead. We're going to get back to Survivor Series 1999 and probably have some kind of Impact, more regular content coming up as well. But guys, let us know what you want, because this is a show all about you guys, really is. And we have a couple of requests as well that we've been getting to nerdtoknowmedia@gmail.com. We have our URL. If you guys can't find us, pop in thewrestlingrewind.com and it'll take you straight to our YouTube, which all our shows are there, and we're on Spotify, SoundCloud, all that kind of good stuff as well. Dave, anything you want to say before we wrap up this week?
Thank you, Taker. I'm not going to plug my own crap this week. Thank you.
Fair. I would echo that as well. And you know, as someone who selfishly, I don't want the Undertaker to be gone, but in one sense, there's no one who has earned it as much. So that is what it is. So guys, look, for Dave and myself, for everyone at Nerd to Know Media, we'll talk to you next week here on The Wrestling Rewind. Bye, guys.
Thank you for listening to a Nerd to Know Media production.